Good morning, Michael.
Good morning. I see you're back to your old tricks of pulling you in to the podcast before me.
Well, yeah, ladies first.
Yeah, well, that's all
I
right.
mean, do you have a problem with that or something?
No, I'm chivalrous. I
I
think
think you are.
I think we
I
need to have a little chivalry in today's broke woke society.
Yeah, don't get me started because the youngest one is in UCO
Oh
right
man.
now, and oh my goodness, I can't tell you the stuff that he comes home and tells me every day, and he would kill me for saying anything about it, but it's sad because I don't ever remember. I graduated with 2 degrees from UCO. And there was nothing. I mean, I guess my last graduation was 92. So 92. I mean, there was nothing like this going on. I mean,
Well,
he talks about the fact that his professors, he's got one professor who, well, at the bottom of their syllabuses, every syllabus at the bottom of their syllabi, excuse me,
yeah.
every syllabus has something on it about UCO acknowledges that we're on indigenous land.
Wow.
And he said it's on the bottom.
What if you go back far enough, what land is not indigenous? I mean,
What? And then if we really want to go back all the way, it's God's. I
mean exactly. Yeah. Well, you
he was the
remember
first one.
Dr. Mather, who we've had on, he was a UCO professor who he left because it was getting so insane over there. And we have friends text us with their kid, because my son's about to be in college and it's his senior year, so we're looking at everything. People are sending us pictures of posters in the college that talk. I mean, it just blows your mind. There's like where you just ask yourself, where is the academics?
I'm not. Yeah, I don't think I'm not sure there's much in the way of academics, but there certainly is. He's got a teacher that's a feminist and has to relate everything to women. He's got a teacher that, and I'm not even call them professors. He's got a teacher that is gay, and so everything about everything has to do with that. It's just gone are the days when you just teach a subject and, hey, it's a subject and you're teaching it. So I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
I kind of relate that to, when I grew up, I was in Boy Scouts, and it was innocent. It was pure. It was teaching you to be, self-reliant, and you're patriotic, and, you're Christian. And look how usurped it is now. I mean, what was it like 10 years ago at the National Boy Scout Convention? They were handing out condoms, and, give me a break. I mean, how far have we fallen?
Well, and the worst part about it is it's the tyranny of the good.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, everybody has these great intentions. And it's all based on emotion, and it's on all nonsense. And you can't make them see reason because they only see emotion. And so that just doesn't, it doesn't go anywhere. Well, Sherry, Representative Conley was going to be on with us this morning, and I'm not sure if she's just otherwise been detained, or since, the legislative session started on Monday. So I can't imagine she's not just up to her neck busy right now. So I don't know if
she's probably out there fighting somebody for us.
She may be. I have no idea, but she's not here this morning so far. I have sent her a text, hopefully, but we've got some other things that we can talk about. So, and I think the one thing that I was thinking about talking about right now is the thing that is coming up for next week. So I'm going to pull in my screen, so we have that available. I'll toss it over here so I can actually see what I'm doing. There are, and I've written about this on the blog. So what I'm sharing with you right now is the blog. There is a whole raft, basically, of rules from the Oklahoma State Department of or the Oklahoma State
the Department of Education, the SDE.
Oh my goodness. Where am I and what's my name? Yes, the OSD has a new raft of rules that are coming out, and I reviewed them a couple weeks ago or something. And so what I'm going to do is I thought maybe we could just roll through them while we're waiting on Sherry if she's going to show up this morning. So everybody who can see right now, I think you can see what the title of the article is, so you can just go to our website if that's going to help you remember this.
What page is that on? The first page, or are they gonna have to go through a page or two to get to that?
I think they'll have to. I think it's on the slide or on the first page. So here it is right here. So this is the first page, and it's right there. So I'm going to go click on that again, and we'll pull that in.
These are all the other rules from the SDE, not just the DEI one that was.
Yeah, they're all of them. Yeah, these are all of the rules.
Yeah.
So hold on a second. I'm going to remove this. Okay. So please note that you can actually find these. I've got them linked here if you want to go and find them, and you can see that. If you want to write them, you write rules at sde.ok.gov, or you can send them something, or you can actually show up at the hearing. And I want you guys to be clear that there is a public hearing scheduled for 2 p.m. on Thursday, February 15th, at the Oliver Hodge building where it normally is, for the following rules. So the following rules are going to be dealt with on that date. So I'm going to move some things around here so I can actually see you and talk. And all right, so notice on every single one of these, I've got a text of the proposed rule so that you can actually go to it. So if you click on text of the proposed rule, it's actually going to bring it up. And I like to point out that one of the things that we don't do here at Rope is we don't just leave you hanging. I mean, if we're going to comment on something, we want you to know that we've commented on it and how you can go. Sherry has texted me. Hold on. We're texting back and forth. Okay. So, there's a rule impact statement that goes with every single one, and it talks about what the purpose is and what it's supposed to do and that kind of thing. You can read that if you'd like, but let's talk about this first one. The rule is standards for elementary, middle level, secondary, and career and technology schools. And every once in a while, they change these rules for the actual standards. And it can be a good thing. It depends on who's kind of in control at the state at that time. But I think right now we've got a pretty good chance to get some good changes to the curriculum going on. And I looked at that, and basically I think they're reasonable. I didn't have any problem with them. I think the only problem that we had is they talk about tests and assessing the school year data on a test, but we need to know, sorry, I'm doing two things at one time. So Sherry's not going to be on this morning. She has been sick and she's just not quite up to 100%. So she's not going to be with us this morning. So I'll get some things from her maybe, and we can check with her later. So I'm sorry she's not going to be on this morning, but we do have plenty of time to go through this. And as usual, Michael, you and I can, we have plenty of things to talk about all the time.
Yeah.
All right. So,
well, yeah, we can talk for a long time.
Oh, yes.
But before you move out of this little section here, I have a question for you, because I'm not as familiar with this as you are. when it comes to all these standardized tests, is this being just a process handed down from the Department of Education, like as a requirement, or is this strictly just state? The state Department of Education says that, or is this the federal Department of Education? I mean, where's more of the weight of all these standardized tests come in that we have to do here?
That's a super good question, and I actually do appreciate you asking that question. So years ago, under our friend George W. Bush, he gave us a new elementary and secondary education law. And what he did was declare that 99% of kids will be, like he had, he could wave a magic wand, you will be, that they would all be proficient in math and English. Well, in order to do that, according to him, we needed to test every child. And so he's the one that really put in this emphasis on testing. And it's not a national test. That's what we fought against with Common Core, because there were national tests being developed on that national curriculum. So that's why we fought against Common Core. We didn't want a national test. But what ends up happening is this. Because testing is incredibly expensive. I mean, it's very hard to develop accurate tests. You have to have people who are skilled at writing these. I mean, it's a pretty big deal. So it's very expensive. So you don't just have testing companies everywhere. There aren't like 600 of them. I mean, because it's so expensive, you have a very few of them, which means that what ends up happening is the testing usually gets funneled into one or two types of testing. And Oklahoma has a test that is based on Oklahoma standards that it gives every year. And it's not a federal test. However, there is a lot of the questions, a lot of the curriculum is designed based on what federal rules say, essentially, the Elementary and Secondary Education Act. So it's not as though there isn't any federal influence, but these tests are written, they're supposed to be written in Oklahoma by Oklahomans, and they're supposed to match the curriculum. And that's what it is that's used as an assessment. Now, obviously you have ACT, SAT, other things, and we can talk about those. But what they're talking about in this, I'm sure, would be, the state test. But we also argued years ago, I don't know, does anybody remember the Iowa test of basic skills? We all used to take it when we were kids, and it's a really good test. It's one of the only tests, it's a nationalized, standardized test that hasn't really fallen into the wokey woke business. And it still does a really good job of assessing a large bank of knowledge for kids. And we always thought it would be a good idea to go to the Iowa test of basic skills just because of that. But then again, then it's not a state test. So there you go. My only complaint about that particular set of rules was just that they didn't specify the test. So that was my only complaint. Any other questions?
What was that with George Bush? Was that part of No Child Left Behind? Is that what that whole deal was?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Like officially called No Child Left Behind?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you very much. Yes, because every president, just instead of wiping out the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, it started under LBJ. It's been moving forward ever since. Presidents never take away. They always add. Obama had his, I don't even remember what his was called because I just didn't care, frankly. But everybody has one. Every president has one, and they just build on it and make things worse. And as I've long said, and as you have too, the federal government needs absolutely no inroads into state education. We have got to get not that nonsense cleared up and get the feds out of state education.
I'll tell you what the most eye-opening test kind of thing that I've ever seen was when my youngest brother graduated high school. This was back in like 2006. This was in Liberal, Kansas. For kind of just a throwback, the local paper published the 8th grade test from like 1890 or 1870, something like that. And I took that test myself. I mean, I tried to answer every single question. I tell you what, it is a mind-blowing, Jenny. The amount of knowledge that those 8th graders had back then compared to now is mind-blowing. I mean, I wish my mom probably saved that paper somewhere. I need to get it because it was just unbelievable.
Oh, it's on the internet. I've actually seen it because somebody uploaded it to the internet, and Snopes decried it as a lie.
Yeah. Well, that was literally, I'm like, here I am, literally, 7,500 years later, and I said that, can't even answer half of the questions on this test.
I couldn't. And I'm way smarter than you.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. There was a comeback there, and you just gonna shake your head. There was a good one.
I've been tamed. I'm in today's woke tamed society. I just have to comply.
That. Don't make me come over there and whack you. All right. So that's the rule. It needs to specify what test. So let's move on to the next rule. This is standards again for elementary, middle level, secondary, and career technology schools. This is an amended section covering personnel records, health, and safety. You can see it, written right there. And it's interesting, we have our V1 SUT regular come on, her Substack author, and she comes on, and she's the one who broke the stories about the drag queens at Western Hills. And, the last time she was on, she was talking about, it was horrible. It really upset me. She was talking about how they kept hiring their friends, and their friends would get in. And then, remember, she talked about this organization in Oklahoma that chases these guys down on the internet who are trying to solicit sex from children. And there was one of the guys that was hired in Western Hills who wasn't even certified properly.
Hills or Heights?
I'm sorry, Western. What did I say?
Well, you have Hills in the article, but I think it's Western Heights.
Oh, it is Western Heights. Oops, I better change that. Thank you for pointing that out. I don't know why I've got Western Hills on the brain. Western Heights Elementary. And he was actually caught by this group on the internet, soliciting sex on the internet. I mean, it was really just disgusting. So these rules come under the new heading. And basically it says that if a district maintains the active employment or contract of, or renews a contract of a certified employee currently under investigation for certificate revocation, and that employee's certificate is revoked at the conclusion of that investigation, the district shall be given a health and safety deficiency. So what they're saying is, if you as a district are going to employ a person who is not going to engage in activities that aren't appropriate, then you as a district can get dinged on your accreditation, because the state accredits all public schools, and they can say whether or not they're going to accredit you or not. So this would give them a ding on that. Then it also says, if a district maintains the active employment or contract or renews a contract of a non-certified employee currently under investigation by law enforcement for a felony, and that employee is convicted of a felony, pleads guilty to a felony, or pleads nolo contundere to a felony at the conclusion of that investigation, the district shall be given a health and safety deficiency. So, and part of this is, Michael, you've had a friend who's been involved, sadly, his child was caught up in what happened at Kingfisher, right?
Yeah.
And like our visit blogger has said, nobody seems to be watching these people. And so they end up getting a felony for mistreatment of children. And then they go on to another department. They may leave the school that they got in trouble from, but then they go to another school and then they get in trouble there. And then they go to another school. And it's like ring around the, bad guy. I mean, I don't know what else to say about it. They just end up going. So you end up getting more and more kids that are impacted by these people who cannot behave and have sexual deviancy issues. So this I believe this rule, I can't speak for our superintendent, but it looks like this rule was put in place to deal with that issue. And I really liked it because I think it's great. If you're going to hold it to them and you're going to ding them, then I think that's good.
But the district is getting dinged, and but is there a record that follows the person that's going to be investigated or found guilty? Or
that's a really good point, Michael, because that is not addressed in here, and I didn't see it in the new rules, and that is something that has to be dealt with. They either have to have a record that goes with it, or they just have to make sure their name has to be kept in record so that nobody hires them. I mean, if a school brings forth a record saying we're hiring Joe Smith and Joe Smith has a record, you say, no, sorry, we don't give him a certificate here in Oklahoma. And I would imagine that's in place, but I'm not sure. That's a really good question. We need to find out.
I look at it from the point of view, okay, what you have a school like Western Heights where the administration is corrupt, in my opinion, corrupted to some degree. What's stopping? Okay, let's say the guy gets in trouble at Western Heights. What's stopping him from going? Let's say even Western Heights gets this mark on the school's record. Well, what if that guy leaves and goes to another school where the administrators are corrupt? They don't care that it necessarily happened at Western Heights. I wouldn't think. They're going to probably protect the guy either way.
Well, that has been happening. I mean, and it's clear that that's been happening because too many of the people that she's talked about, you can go back in their employment records and they've been at one school and go to another. And then they've been at this school and they go to another. So there's no question that has been happening.
Well, maybe it's at least a good start to punish the district for that type, allowing that type of behavior in one way or another.
Well, and I agree, but the only thing that kind of bothered me in this one, I've got to send these off today because, they're due next week. The problem to me is the word current. I mean, because if you think about it, what happens if you have somebody on staff like the guy in Shawnee? Remember the coach in Shawnee? He'd been on staff for a really long time. So does that really cover people who have been on the staff? I mean, what if somebody just reports him and says he's had contact with their child? I mean, then he should be gone right away, at least until he's had due process. And you should give everybody due process. I'm the big due process fan, obviously. However, he shouldn't be in the classroom if if the issue has been sexual contact with a minor. No. Well, you need to be out of the classroom until you have due process.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the problem we see, especially when parents contact us kind of on some of these issues. It seems like these school districts just constantly defend these people in these positions and they vilify the parents and the kids. I mean, it should be the other way around. If a parent or a child comes to the district and says, hey, my child is being abused, that person should immediately be put on some type of leave and then investigated and not be allowed to just continue the practice. And maybe even like the Kingfisher deal for years. I mean, for years, they knew about instances like that.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing that, it just seemed kind of like a grandfather clause. You don't want to protect the people that are already there. I mean, and I don't know, current could mean, if they're under current investigation, maybe this person hasn't even been found out yet. I don't know, but it bothers me because, to me that And I may be wrong on that. I mean, obviously, this is just my opinion. This is how I read it. Okay, so the next one is a statement of the standard. And here's an example of what the third accreditation standard says. It says, accredited with deficiencies. A school, site, or district fails to meet one or more of the standards, but the deficiency does not seriously detract from the quality of the school's educational program. So they're changing the accreditation standards, I think, to make them give them a little more teeth. So if they ding a school on accreditation in any way, like if they say, well, we're going to accredit you this year with a demerit, and next year we may if you don't solve this, then we're just not going to accredit you next year. That's kind of right how the process works, right? So if they go ahead and accredit the school, they could accredit them with deficiencies, and it wouldn't be a deficiency that would seriously detract from the school's educational program. But then the question that popped in my head was, well, you just did this health and safety deficiency about, people who were there preying on children, essentially. So it better be more than just the school's educational program. I mean, do you need to add another accreditation that says, accreditation with the deficiency of, with the health and safety deficiency? I don't know. But to me, I mean, we obviously have problems with schools not teaching kids, because, I mean, we're the last in the nation now in education, and our kids are 25 maybe percent proficient at English and less in math. So obviously we've got to do something about the daggum education. But we also can't put kids in schools where people are preying on them sexually. So that to me seems like the thing we really need. I mean, that needs to be a bigger thing. And again, this is just the way I read them. Any thoughts, Michael?
Well, yeah. I mean, here's what I hate. I hate to have to expand government to have to be able to do this. I mean, do we really have to write all these rules, have all these amendments? I mean, why can't school board members make their school administrators accountable? I mean, what is so hard about that? But that's just the entire disempowerment of, we put weak people on school boards that now, I mean, if I was on a school board, Jenny, and something like that happened in my district, I mean, you would not hear I'd be on the news every single day, literally.
You would be. There's no question in my mind. You'd be on one of your Michael rants.
Yeah, but you cannot you just can't let these administrators. I mean, if they're not going to do the job of academics, then they need to go. You got to find somebody else. And if their priority is to allow and protect these pedophiles and all these people. I mean, because we've said it 100 times. These people that have that type of mentality, they're going to go where the kids are, and the kids are in school. That's where these people are going to go. They're going to have access in the school districts.
Yeah. No, and it's true. And you're 100% right about that, which is why we should be so high on alert, in this particular situation. Well, so anyway, I was going to just send that in because I'm like, not seriously detract from the quality of the school's educational program. I just thought there should be some tighter language. Because my thought was, maybe you just keep the number of deficiencies very small, right? You don't have like 16 or something. You have 4. And, you're just they're very meaningful. And then, then when you don't get accreditation, there's, a specific reason why.
Yeah. Well, real quick, just explain to me and probably everybody else, what happens like with that accreditation process? I mean, what do they lose funds? Like if a school becomes unaccredited, like, let's say, like what happened to Tulsa up there, like what actually happens? I mean, what's the impact?
Hold on one second. I was going to show you if I can do it. Cause I pulled up the rule And I was going to show you the actual rule. I don't know why it wants to make me get out every single time. I'm like, there has to be an easier way to do this. And there was, and why it's not doing it now, I'm not really sure. But basically, I just pulled this up, and I don't know why we can't see it. It must be a pop-up issue. But I don't want to keep popping it back and forth. So right now there are six standards, accreditation standards: accredited with distinction, accredited with no deficiencies, accredited with deficiencies, accredited with warning, accredited with probation, non-accredited. So Amber just asked, she was wondering what the repercussions were, just like you asked. And so it's apparent that if you don't, according to the accreditation standards that I'm reading right now, the six of them, number 1 and number 2, you just are re-accredited. But then you can have accredited with deficiencies. And that's the one that says does not seriously detract from the quality of the school's educational program. And then you've got 4 accredited with warning, and then 5 accredited with probation. So apparently what happens is, depending on the amount of deficiencies that you have, there's a warning, and then you get accredited with probation, which means that you have to fix the problems. And I think that's where Western Heights was before. They were accredited with probation, and they had to fix the problems before they could be fully accredited again. And then you have a non-accredited one where the school site or district is no longer recognized by the State Board of Education. So that is what the repercussions are. You get so many deficiencies, and you basically then just could manage to get completely non-accredited. So I hope does that make sense?
If they become non-accredited, do they lose money, or they're not allowed to do certain things? Or, I mean, what's the actual teeth of not being accredited? I mean, it looks like they've got several opportunities to fix not being accredited, but if they're not accredited, is the school just go out of business at some point? Or,
that's a good question, because it doesn't address that in this rule.
Yeah.
But I would imagine, I would hope, but I can't be sure. I'll have to actually find out the answer to that question, because I'm not sure. But I would hope that if you are, if you're non-accredited, you shouldn't be getting a dime from the state. I mean, for anything, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that would just be I would.
Well, that's what I think we need to really see, is what that actual non-accreditation process involves. What does it even mean for these schools?
Yeah. Well, and accredited with probation, it says consistently fails to remove or make substantive progress towards removing all deficiencies noted the previous year, and or consistently violates regulations, and or deliberately and unnecessarily violates one or more of those regulations. So,
yeah, I just wonder if they're not allowed to operate, maybe they can't take new enrollment, maybe they lose a certain percentage of money, or what that accreditation actual definition and implementation of what that actually means. That's what we need to find out.
Yeah. And we do, because I don't really know what that means. We could probably talk to, a board member or something and find that out. So, all right, so let's go on to the next. Now, these are going to be heard on the 16th of February. So don't forget, the other ones were on the 15th. Yeah. So these are going to be heard on the 16th. Now, this is the equal protection, and I'm probably going to irritate some people, but I think that's kind of what everybody expects at this point in time. I really did, and I'm trying to be as magnanimous as I can about it. Let's say this rule is better than what we have right now, which is nothing. Okay. But that's the best I can say for it. All right. And if that you're okay with that, that's fine. I mean, if we always have to start someplace, right? So I'm willing to see that. But here's the thing that really bothers me about this. And it doesn't even, the rule doesn't even bother me that much, because like I said, you can start someplace and build on that. And I'm okay with that. That's how we do things. But what I don't like is, I believe that our superintendent has been out in the media saying something that doesn't really comport with what's written in this rule. And I think there's a different idea out in the public of what this rule is going to do than it actually does. And that's what bothers me.
Yeah.
I just don't like the idea. I don't like that idea. And I don't want to use the term misleading, because but then again, I don't know. I don't feel like what's being said in the media comports with what this actually says. So let's talk about the reason why I think that. So if you look at this particular, and I can't pull up the text of the proposed rule on here because for whatever reason, StreamYard won't let me do that. But you can see what I've written here, and you can go if you want to look at it. Don't forget, it's linked right here, and you can do that. So nothing in this rule prohibits, this is what's written in the rule. Okay. This is E in the rule. Nothing in this rule prohibits the department or any recipient of funds from the department from applying for a grant or complying with the accreditation requirements by an accrediting or licensing agent, including but not limited to submitting to the grantor or accreditation agency a statement that, and then it basically goes on to talk about other things. But I want to stop right here. Where are we getting most of the gross and yucky stuff in public schools? And when I say public schools, I mean public higher education schools as well as K-12. So I'm talking about the whole broad thing. Where does so much of this yucky stuff come in? Do you know, Michael?
What comes in from taking the federal money? You have to follow the guidelines.
It can come in from that, but here's what they're talking about right here. Look at this. For applying for a grant.
Oh, yeah.
Or complying with accreditation requirements. Now, I don't think I put them in this article. I did not. Oh, I did. Okay. So I think I might be able to share this. So this is Cognia. This is an organization that actually does accredit K-12 schools. All right. And post-secondary institutions like colleges. So I want to point out what it says. So introduction, what makes a good school, all right? And if you go down here, it says a culture of learning, leadership for learning. There's a whole DEI section in here, and I hope I can find it without, because I haven't looked at this in a couple of days. So I'm not sure where it actually went on here, but there's a whole section on DEI. Okay, I'm not going to find it, and I don't want to keep that up there, but you guys can go look at it. There's a whole section on DEI in that Cognia section, and it says DEI. They have to comply with DEI standards to be accredited. So when you say accreditation requirements, you've nullified quite a bit of stuff there just because of the fact that by allowing a school to be accredited, they'll have to comport with some DEI stuff. So you've just excused that. Do you follow what I'm saying there?
Yeah.
Because it says nothing in this rule prohibits. Well, if nothing in the rule prohibits, then you've thrown that out, right? And then it says applying for a grant. Well, I think I wrote another article that actually included a lot more stuff about it. But if you go to like Edmond, for example, Edmond Public Schools has a foundation that's linked to it, and it gets money from this foundation, and people, just regular parents, go out and help this foundation raise money to put things back into schools. They had a grant that was given by a couple of individuals that was well in excess of tens of thousands of dollars that specifically went for SEL.
Yeah.
What does SEL equal? DEI. So if you're going to prohibit the department or any recipient of funds from the department from applying for a grant or complying with accreditation requirements, you've completely nullified your whole, but this is going to stop DEI in public schools. That can't be, because it will just come in through this door.
Yeah. Yeah, because it says nothing in this rule prohibits the department or any of the receipts of those funds through a grant or complying with their accreditation. Yeah, you're right.
So I don't like that. So it's disingenuous to say this is going to stop DEI in Oklahoma public schools. It's not.
Yeah.
It's simply not, because then you'll have Edmond, the Edmond Public Schools Foundation, who's just going to turn around and give these tens of thousands of dollars in SEL money to Edmond, and they're going to go, I don't really care what your rule says. It's meaningless to me. I'm giving this money for SEL. So, I don't like that. Then it also says this rule should not be construed to apply to the department or any recipient of funds from the department with respect to the following. Now, this is another one. Let's all read together, shall we? A policy, practice, procedure, program, class, or activity required for compliance with state or federal laws, rules, or regulations for obtaining or retaining institutional, academic, or discipline-specific accreditation or licensure. So again, you just nullified this whole thing by saying that a policy, practice, procedure, or activity that's in compliance with state or federal laws. I'm not even worried about the state laws, but go look at the ESEA that Biden did. You can go out and look it up. It's not hard to do. And I think I've linked it in another, like I said, in another document on here, where I talked specifically about this issue. And I can pull that up in a little bit. And you can go and look at all of the things that I pulled in to support my thesis that this rule is going to do. It does nothing. I mean, the only thing that it does is that it prohibits the state from, you can't train employees in DEI with state money.
Yeah.
You can't create a program of DEI at an executive branch with state funds. You can't do that. And so that's why I'm saying it's better than nothing, because at least it does prevent that. You can't have the Department of Health and Human Services. Wait a minute. I've got to check and make sure that that's correct. Let's go back out here. Here's the article that I wrote about the DEI rules specifically right here. Okay. So that's the one. And you'll notice I've got all of this information to back up my thesis. These are the executive branches. So if it's not listed in this list, that particular rule and the governor's executive order do not, anything outside of the ones that you see listed right there, it doesn't matter. So Department of Health and Human Services is not on here, right? So if they wanted to go ahead and train somebody in DEI using state money, they could do it, because it only applies to the executive branches. Do you follow where I'm going?
Yeah.
I mean, am I making sense so far?
Yeah.
Am I?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, it applies to those, and that's good. I mean, they can't train anybody in DEI in these agencies, but you're going to leave out a whole bunch of other ones. And that's a problem. All right. So let me see if I can show. Oh, here it is right here. I'm so glad I pulled this up. So here's what I meant. Just advanced diversity and opportunity in higher education. Justice and education departments release resources to advance diversity and opportunity in higher education. And these are grants from the U.S. Department of Education. So what did they just exempt from that? This.
The grants. Yeah, the grants.
So here's another federal grant. Another grant. This is just a private organization that provides a grant. This is FIRST, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Initiatives and Grants. So anybody could apply for these. I mean, your university could, your school could. It doesn't matter. They can still apply for these. And it doesn't follow under the rule, and it doesn't follow under the governor's executive order. Okay. So, and I've talked about here the procedures and all of that kind of, here's a fact sheet from the feds that talks about how Title IX law can promote DEI. So when you're talking about an activity or student organization registered with or recognized by an institution of higher education, you have all these DEI clubs on college campuses. It's not going to help them. Scholarly or research or creative work, it's not going to help them. And I threw something in here, attitudes on polyamorous family survey. This came from UCO from a friend of mine who got that. So when you can read this if you want to here's the thing from Edmond that talks about they donated $25,000 for SEL. See, there you go. So we don't have to keep going over this because I don't want to beat this dead horse, but the whole point of this is I feel like there's a disingenuous theme going on in the media right now that talks about how this particular rule is going to stop DEI, and it's just simply not going to do that. So
let me give you a little example here, Jenny. Let me see. Let me get this up here.
Oh, are you going to share your screen now too?
Yeah.
The Duel of the Sheens screen sharing.
Okay. So a parent a while back contacted me about one of their kids
roll it up so you don't see the email address. Roll it up.
Well, this is my email and this is the email from.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
Anyway. Okay. So anyway, a parent contacted me because there was an LGBTQ flag in one of the classrooms. There was no other flag, no Oklahoma flag, no American flag. And they said, hey, I'm not comfortable with this. I don't want repercussions, with my child in the classrooms. I said, okay. I said, I'll file a report on your behalf. There's no problem with that. So I filed a report. Many months go by. And then this is basically what I get back. They said, processing the above report completed, SDE found the circumstances addressed in your report cannot be addressed through further action by this agency against Edmond Public Schools named in your report. There is currently no statewide law or rule that prohibits the display of the LGBTQ rainbow flag in a school. So there you go. You have all this talk about all this stuff is going to be coming down. You're not going to be able to do this. We're going to get these people out or this or that. But yet there's nothing. And this is, that's straight from the SDE to me about that issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there, you think that like you said, with the talk surrounding all this DEI stuff, you think that it sounds so good. Yes, let's do it. Let's get on board. We're going to take all this stuff down and get back to basics and this and that. But ultimately, when it comes to the law and the way that the law is written, there's nothing you can do about it.
Well,
that's kind of what you're showing with these rules here with this DEI, because it's just obfuscating the fact that if you take a grant, then the grant is going to override whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it does bother me. And it's not just that the rule bothers me. The whole, I mean, like I said here, they are completely meaningless in terms of stopping DEI if you don't take care of these other issues. And again, it only applies to certain agencies. So if you're going to go out, if you're, a member of the governor's staff, or you're a member of Walter's staff, or whatever, and you're going to go out and say and telegraph that we've stopped DEI in Oklahoma schools, I'm going to have to disagree with you. I just don't think that's a fair thing to say. You can say we've limited it. We have limited DEI with this rule. And I think that's a fair thing to say. But if you say stopped, that's not correct. And if I'm wrong, please show me, and I will be happy to correct myself. But I don't see how that works. So again, this is bad. I don't care for this, and we need to do something about that. And I would hope that everybody would write in about this, because this is not good. All right, so let's go on to the next one. Again, this is February 16th. Here's the text of the rule. A teacher may be dismissed, refused employment, or not reemployed after finding that such a person has, either in the presence of a minor or in a manner available to a minor online, engaged in sexual acts that appeal to the prurient interest in sex as found by the average person, applying contemporary community standards, which I wish Sherry were on, because we could talk about contemporary moral or community standards from now till next week. Sadly, they don't really mean much. Or acts that excessively promote sexuality in light of the educational value of the material and in light of the youngest age of any student with access to said material. So again, this seems to be a perfectly reasonable rule that should stop predators. However, here are the concerns. This is similar language. It's like I said a second ago about community standards used by many parents to try to get the books out of school. And it just doesn't do anything, because the lefties then argue, well, it's got educational value. Seeing a boy's penis and talking about vaginas has absolute educational interest. And they argue it because, community standards at this point, I don't even know what a community standard is. Do you?
Yeah. They're, I mean,
and
that's the thing, that it's just those words themselves, Jenny, community standard. I mean, that's different than actual morals and values.
Yeah.
And that's that separation that's happened.
Right.
And
exactly.
Julie that's comment kind of along those lines also.
Yeah. Well, and Julie is right. 100% right there. But here's the other thing that I want to point out. So this is what I want to talk to people. I think we've bored a couple of people. A couple people have gotten off here, but listen to me. You have to look at what I'm circling right here. You have to be so careful about what these things say. May means nothing.
Yeah.
May means nothing. Oh, I may go out and pay my bills today. I may stop that person from crossing the street in front of that car. It's a qualifier. It means nothing. I could also say, oh, well, I'm just going to film it and put it up on, YouTube if he crosses the street in front of that car. I mean, it doesn't mean anything. You have to say shall is the word, because that means that no matter what, you're getting rid of this person who is a predator, a sexual predator on our kids. So again, what's the point of writing a rule if the rule just basically allows you to go out and say, well, we've stopped this? We haven't stopped anything. If you're going to tell me you may do it, if you're going to tell me you may do it, you may not do it. So what difference does it make? Just don't waste the parchment. So,
it's busy work. It's just people are upset. Okay, we'll put something out there, and that's it.
And what Amber said is throw Amber's up there. I mean, and that's correct. What she says. That's why you absolutely. And Julia said, it's a little pat on your head. We may. It's okay. Just go look somewhere else for your problems.
Well, and Amber also said, was talking about them if they lose money in one way, they'll just put kids in another way.
Yes. Well, yeah. Yeah. So it also says I'm saying this rule basically needs to say that any staff member of a public school will be dismissed or shall be dismissed if, after a law enforcement investigation and or a school inquiry of the individual has found that they engaged in any sex act with a minor, including inappropriate online communication. So they need to add any staff member of a public school will, not may or anything else. So
it needs to be black and white. There needs
it
to
has to be.
If you're found guilty, consequence, period. There's no may, there's nothing up for interpretation there. It's yes or no.
Yes. So this is a real issue, and we're running out of time. So I'm going to try to go through a couple more. So on the 20th, there is a revocation of some rules, and my comment was, I don't know why, but I'm happy anytime we revoke rules.
Yeah, well,
because most of them don't get followed anyway. There's a purpose declaration of foundational values, and I was really a little irritated about this. The text of the proposed rule is actually quite long. It's right here. Okay. So don't forget when we talked about yesterday, anything underlined is new, right? Anything underlined is new. So this is just a text of what we believe, I guess. And this is all new. It's because this is what it says here. This is what has been repealed. Okay. And then this is what has been added.
Yeah. And I agree. Julia says the superintendent going to jail will stop a whole lot of things. 100%. You need one person.
100%.
You need to show this is the law of the land. This is not going to be tolerated. And that will end it. That will end all of it.
It would. Absolutely. So my point was, I just don't know. I mean, lots of people love Superintendent Walters for going out and, being hard on the left. And he ate a burger for PETA the other day. And, okay. I get that to some degree. I really honestly do. I mean, at some point you just want to shake people and go, you're just being completely stupid and let's stop this. But then what he does, in my personal opinion, is go way too far, because then we end up putting ourselves in a position where now we're just being divisive ourselves. So I don't know what being divisive does to help anything. It doesn't unite anybody. So I think there's a point at which you just can close your mouth and maybe disappear into the woodwork just a little bit and let your work speak for you, and not you having to be out in the front, banging the desk all the time, because I don't think that brings people along. And I think there are people who would agree with quite a bit of the things that he's doing, but the way he goes about it makes people, makes some people a little irritable. And, again, I get it, but it's not working for me. I mean, we're already so divided as it is right now. I don't know. Get the work done. Don't scream at people about it. That's just my personal opinion. All right. So anyway, I'm not nuts about that. I don't see the point of that. Suspension and or revocation of certificates that was amended. This rule inserts a single paragraph that states the number of days in which the OSDE must be notified if contesting the revocation of a teaching certificate. No big deal there. This is just the accreditation rating. They've revoked some of the accreditation rules in favor of the ones that we talked about earlier in the program. So we don't need to really go over that. This one actually, so rule 2210 10-1-16, Oklahoma Academic Scholar and other student recognitions. I felt like it was really very helpful. And the reason why is this. we were talking about standardized tests earlier on, and a new standardized test that's come up is called the Classic Learning Test, or CLT. And the CLT, even though it still does have a little bit of the woke garbage in it, my kids took it because I didn't want them taking the SAT or the ACT when they were, I had them take it as an 8th grader because I wanted to see where they were before I started them on their high school curriculum. And they all did really well on the test, because it's oriented more for, well, the questions are not asked the same way the ACT and the SAT are. And so I had my kids take them because I really liked that. And they did report that there was a little bit of, woke nonsense on it, but it wasn't anything like the ACT or the SAT. So this particular rule actually includes now the CLT, as a test that we could actually look to use instead of the SAT or the ACT. Because if you don't know this, the state actually pays for the use of testing for ACT at the end of the school year. And again, I don't like the test. I think it's a political test. I don't think it measures student knowledge, but I think if we could substitute it for the CLT, and if we have language that basically inserts the CLT as an option, I'm all for that. So way to go, Ryan Walters, on this one. I agree with this one completely. So please, tell him good job there. I feel like we have to make a big deal out of that since I've been kind of dinging him on these. All right. So the next one is parental rights definitions, and they've amended the language to add an independent contractor, which means an individual, organization, or entity that is engaged by and or contracted by a school district to provide services or instruction, whether directly or indirectly, to students or within a school district on a temporary contractual basis, and is not an employee of the school district. I'm not really sure what that means. I do know that, like, for example, if you have a sick child and the child can't get out of bed or can't go to school for some reason, maybe cancer, being treated for cancer, and they just cannot get germs. So they have to be, secluded. So teachers have always gone to these kids and basically helped them with their schoolwork so that they could stay on track. It's a fairly common thing that happens. It's not a big deal. That they have been certified personnel that I know of previously. So now this rule is going to allow non-certified personnel to do that. And I'm not really sure what that means. And obviously, as a homeschooler, I would be like, well, that's great, because me as a teacher, former teacher and a homeschool teacher, I wouldn't mind going to help, some poor kid that needs to be, and tutor. That'd be fine. But the only thing that bothers me is this. It's kind of tricky because so you're not certified. So then what if that person goes in and sexually molests this child, or steals something from the home or something like that? Then who's at fault for that? How can they possibly, if it's a public school, I don't know. I'm just in the world of normalcy. If we were in normal world and not upside down world, I would go, oh, this is great, because then the next door neighbor can come over and help them and it's not a big deal, right? But now we have a problem with sexual deviancy that I don't want kids pulled into. And it just seems to me like it might be super easy for somebody to do that. So I don't know. What do you think, Michael?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you never want to have, anyone that's in some type of professional aspect, you don't want to, if there's reasons why there's certifications. And most certifications have a code of ethics and conduct and things that go along with that. So it's just like in any business or any other avenue. If someone's not certified, then they can't be held to the same standard as someone that is. So it's just one less, or are we just making that convenient because there is a teacher shortage? There is, certification issues. So are we just kind of saying, well, we still need to be able to have these, roaming people that go do this, but we can't necessarily find someone, I mean, I guess it's a catch-22, but
yeah. Well, that's kind of the way I thought too. So, okay, so that's that one. So the next one is the Oklahoma School Accountability System. I'm going to pull up the text of the rules. So here is the actual rule, and you'll notice that it's been in place. And so we're going to go down and find this is being revoked. This is being added. Each public school student who does not score at least at the satisfactory level on state criterion reference tests in reading and mathematics by the end of the student's 7th grade year shall be provided remediation for the purpose of assisting the student in performing at least at the satisfactory level on the 8th grade criterion reference test in reading and mathematics, subject to the availability of funding. So, and there are different ways, that they can do this. And, I don't really have a problem with that. It doesn't, I don't see a problem with that. So, I was, I'm okay with that. So there you go. Okay. The complaint procedures. I apparently wrote a whole, wow, I must be losing my mind. Oh, yes. This was the one that I was so freaked out about.
it's huge.
So, why is it that we're writing a rule so that Oklahoma private schools have to answer to the feds? And so here's the rule, and it basically let me see if I can find the specific part in here. It was really hard to find. That was the other thing. Here it is, right here. Here it is, right here. Part F, section 7881 of Title 8, participation by private school children and teachers. Participation by private school teachers and children. So I went out and looked up the rule, and it is right here. So let me pull it. Whoop, did I get it? Where did it go? Whoop, hold on. There it is. Okay. So here's uniform provisions, subpart 1, private school, participation by private school children and teachers. And so it basically talks about secular, neutral, and non-ideological services or benefits, educational services or other benefits, including materials and equipment provided under this section shall be secular, neutral, and non-ideological. So stop. So aren't many private schools religious?
Yeah.
So if you have this Uniform Provisions Act and we're going to give federal money to private schools, but then those schools have to be secular, neutral, or non-ideological, then what are we doing? Don't we have the possibility, if a private school decides to take them, now that there is that, right? I mean, the private school has to take that. But if that private school takes that money, then they can't be a private religious school anymore. Yeah. And why would it be okay why would we have to change rules at the State Department of Education to make sure that they can do that?
Yeah. Now that's coming from, if you take a certain type of federal grant, that section 7 or F, is that how that's invoked?
Yes.
So it's not like just general purpose, but basically I think what you're doing is you're paving the way that down the road, if you take a tax credit or some other type of money, state money, federal money, or whatever, at some point they're going to have a rule just like that, to where you can't be you can't be secular, you can't be ideological.
And this is what worried us. Remember, I mean, this is what we said immediately from word go. If you're going to give parents state money, the state's going to have to be accountable to those monies. And so that basically that state money is going to make the private school a state school.
Yeah.
And so to me, basically, this is the reason for this whole thing is the Oklahoma parental tax credit. So once that private school becomes a state school, now they can get federal dollars, but oops, now you can't be a religious school.
Yeah.
So this is really super, super concerning. And, you know, I may have a completely wrong take on this, but I did contact a state school board member and asked them about this. And basically their take on it was the state accredits some private schools. Many private schools are accredited. And I was going to show this because I think I put this link in here. I think I did. I may not have. No, I did not. I'm reading what Amber says. I don't know. That's something to think about too. I'm not really sure about that. But when I asked the state board member about this, they said that the state accredits some private schools, although there is a private school group that houses a bunch of, it's like an umbrella that houses a bunch of accreditation agencies for private schools. And so that private organizations accredit private schools, and parents just have to say, well, my private school is accredited by this private organization. But some private schools actually choose the state for accreditation. So if you're choosing the state for accreditation, then you're having to comport and comply with state laws and state regulations, and state laws and regulations also, which is incompletely correct, but they do it anyway, require that federal laws are followed as well. And so that's where all the DEI, where all the non-religious stuff comes in. This rule really bugs me. I think this is a bad rule. It had not been in there before. I'll pull this tab in. This had not been, this section, I don't believe had been in there before. Let's look through here just to make sure I was wrong.
And I think that's kind of the point of, you know, kind of part of Rope's fight against the tax credit and things like that, because it may not be in there from day one, but let's fast forward 5 years from now. Is that, you know, is something just like that specifically going to be applied to every single school that a parent chooses to send their kid through with the tax credit money? I mean, ultimately, that's how that expansion works.
Well, and let's look up here, Michael. This is repealed language, remember, because it's stricken through. But no, that's not in here. So this is something brand new. This was not in, you can't look at this and say, well, this is the way Joy did it, or this is the way it's been done. You can't do that. This is something brand new. And I think that just in and of itself should be concerning, because the parental choice tax credit is brand new. So I don't see how it doesn't link these two. It's not making me feel better. I'm not going, oh yeah, now I feel so much better about it. I don't think this is good. I definitely don't think we want private schools getting sucked under the state umbrella, and we certainly don't want them getting sucked under federal umbrella. What the point then would be of a private school?
Yeah. I mean, what's, and we talked about it on a previous podcast. I mean, at a private school, you know, they have a doctrine that they're teaching, you know, whether it's satanic or Christian or Catholic, or, I mean, that's the whole purpose of that school. So, well, I agree, Jenny, but who is going to go into something like, I mean, that's how they sneak this stuff in. Who's going to go in and see that little addition and then go look up the part F in the uniform provision itself? You know, no one else is going to do that.
Well, but people, and that's I think that's the real problem with government the way we have it right now. It's just constant dumpster fires
Yeah.
where you can't be the person looking up all of this stuff all the time. You just can't. And then we end up, tacitly accepting it because we don't even know what's going on because we can't keep up with it. And
Yeah.
so I do hope that people will write in, and don't forget, these are going to be heard on, what did I say? I don't know why I have such short-term memory
The
issues.
20th,
On
I
the
think.
20th.
Yeah.
So please write in, and you can, like I said, both of these blogs that I've been showing you are on the website, so you can go find them. It's vote2.org. It's not super hard.
But that's the whole point. That's what government does. It's so complex and convoluted, and then they just, they take so much away here, add so much more here. I mean, most people that, don't have your acuity with this type of research and looking into documents, like, I mean, they're just going to go to page one and say, oh my God, what is happening here? Forget it. I'm going to go back to doing whatever it was I was doing.
Yeah, it's not good. Okay, so here's another section that's been revoked. Again, I don't know why, but good for them. This is the other one that I wanted to talk about that I don't like. So Ryan Walters has been out there talking about how he's going to remove, did you put Amber Evans's quote?
No, but you know
Throw
what?
that.
When you put that up, you should probably read it too, because there are
Yeah.
there are a lot of people that just do the podcast and they don't watch the video.
Yeah, no, I will read this. Need to look closer here and research. This is from watcher Amber Evans. Are they influential in our state? www.nasb.org. NASB is the only organization dedicated solely to helping state boards advance equity and excellence in public education. We assist our members in shaping education policy in dozens of state contexts. NASB, excuse me, was the one that basically said they worked with the Secretary of Education under Biden to shut parents down during COVID, who were going to their board meetings and kind of speaking out. And he was the one that said, well, the attorney general, then the national attorney general, came out and said, well, we're going to investigate these parents because they're causing all this trouble at school board meetings. So we need zero help from any national organization for school boards. Zero. Double
Yeah.
zero. We don't need any help from these people. Be gone, get out. But we don't need any help from the ones in our state as well, because we have the Oklahoma State School Boards Association, which is, they do woke training. We had a bill that was actually run 1447 that stopped mandatory school board training. And it was run by Shane Jett. It actually got a hearing. It actually got to the floor. The gallery in the Senate was lined with members from OSSBA sitting there glaring down at the Senate. I dare you to vote for this. I mean, these people are not
Oh yeah, I
elected.
remember that.
They get state tax dollars.
Yeah.
They are not in the public interest. They need to go away and be gone. But unfortunately, Ryan has been going out saying, well, we're going to get rid of the State School Boards Association from, whatever. Well, but here's the thing. I'm going to pull up the text of the proposed rule because I want people to actually see this. Okay, so let's go down. Where is it? Oh, here it is right here. Oh, I'm sorry. It was so big I missed it. So they've basically just removed the state. And Julia's made that point. Really super important. Yes, $8 million in tax dollars per year. And just so that you know, the legislature doesn't appropriate the OSSB any money, but schools who get paid by appropriated and otherwise tax dollars give their money to the OSSBA for dues, right? So they're taxpayer funded. There's no way around that. I mean, if the schools got paid by something else, then it wouldn't be, taxpayer funded, but they're using taxpayer dollars. So this whole section It says requirements for new and incumbent school board member training amended. And then basically all it does is take out the Oklahoma School Boards Association. That doesn't do anything. It's not going to, it doesn't, workshops providing instruction to qualify for credit pursuant to this section shall include all in-state workshops, seminars, conferences, and/or conventions that are conducted by, and then it removes them. So I guess you could argue that, well, we can't do anything with the OSSBA because of the fact that the rule at the OSDE says that you're not included in training. I assume you could do that. But I think what would better be served would have been to actually pass the bills that we wrote against mandatory school board training, because that just revoked the whole state law. And that's what we really need. I don't know that the rule, they're going to be able to make them follow the rule, but if we had it removed from the law, I think that would have solved that problem. So if you want to go here, you can actually go, here is, we talked about this particular situation, and here's this particular blog explains everything that we wrote in that bill to get OSSBA out of training in Oklahoma. And that's really what we need to do. So I'm not sure that rule is going to help anything. And again, I don't care if you want to take them out, that's fine, but let's not go out and tell the public that it's going to do something that I'm not sure that it's going to do. Yeah. And if I'm missing something, again, I am certainly open to criticism. All right, so let's go down to the next one. Apparently, this removes the ability of a charter school to appeal any changes. So a charter school has to send the OSDE the data. There's a whole raft of data, and they have to submit it on the data portal. And apparently what had happened was some charter schools had been late, I guess, in submitting the data, or they submitted it and then found out it was wrong and needed to change it. And so I guess this rule, fixes that, and that's fine. I don't have much to say about that. This particular one, standard administration organization, local board responsibilities and staff's relationships. Again, there really wasn't anything to say about that. It just said the local board and its individual members shall refrain from involvement in or interference with the administrative functions of the school. And I was surprised even that was in that. Here, let's get the text of proposed rules, because it's really easier to see. So Michael, you have to giggle about that one. Come on.
I mean, are you here's what I like. Are you the only you're the only person I know that can bring up like legislative text and then just start laughing?
Well, because it's funny. Look, This was actually in the rules. The local board and its individual members shall refrain from involvement in or interference with the administrative functions of the school.
Yeah, better strike that.
So then what's the point of becoming a school board member then?
Yeah.
I mean,
don't get involved. Well, I mean, that's school boards by name only. I mean, that's all it is. It's just a little placeholder, for now. So you get a little badge. You should just get a little badge here. It says, I'm a school board member.
Yeah, I thought that was so, kudos to them for repealing that absolutely ridiculous thing. I mean, that's just ridiculous, because the state law prescribes what board members can do, and it's basically everything. So I don't know how you can come in with a rule at the State Department of Education and go, no, we just nullified that section.
Yeah.
How does that work? So I'm glad that's gone. And then it just adds some things, which I thought were fine. I don't have a problem with any of the things that they added. I mean, I think they're fine. So, that's not an issue. So again, there's one that I'm okay with. I just thought it was funny because that's so many things were in the rules and you're like, really? Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Oh, this was a good rule. School District Transparency Act. So this is 210-35-3-167. Again, this is a good rule. Please give him kudos for this. It just basically says that if the school's website does not comply with state law, and state law is pretty broad about all the stuff that they have to put on their website for accountability. And if they don't do that, they'll get a deficiency on their accreditation if they don't fix it within 30 days. So again, I'm not sure that it's going to fix everything, but it's way better than nothing. So kudos to Ryan on that. So good for that. All right. So now this is at 2:00 on the 20th. There is a rule, and you may not agree with me, and I don't care, and I don't care. Everybody can have their own opinions. I've always been happy for people to have their own opinions. My opinion is that this is just nonsense. I'll put up the text of the proposed rule. Every public school district shall adopt a policy that permits those students and teachers who wish to do so to participate in voluntary prayer. Such policies shall include provisions authorizing voluntary prayer at sporting events and graduation ceremonies in accordance with the Supreme Court's decision in Kennedy versus Bremerton, include provisions for addressing complaints regarding violations. The State Department of Education shall annually verify that districts have adopted policies to comply with this rule. So that's basically it. It's very short. But we have so many other issues. We have kids that can't read, and we're going to argue about whether they can pray in school. And I'm a Christian. I'm happy for you to pray in school. And I love it when coaches pray over the team and all of that. I mean, and it's our First Amendment right to be able to do that and express our religion. So I don't know why this is happening, because I think I don't know. You got any thoughts on it? I think this is silly. I'll just stop it there.
Yeah. Well, I'm along those same lines. I mean, when I look at all of this paperwork and busy work and just, I always go back, to the simplicity of just morals, laws, values. The 10 Commandments didn't need to be amended 5,000 times to include or exclude or, whatever. It's black and white, and it should be pretty easy to follow and understand. And if things aren't made black and white, Jenny, then there's no consequence. If it, just like if you may do this, or someone, it's left open to some interpretation, there should be no interpretation. It's either you do this or you don't do this. And if you don't do it, you get in trouble. And here's what happens. It's not that hard.
Well, and here's what I put. So and I didn't finish reading the whole bottom one. So you get a ding basically if your school doesn't adopt a policy on this, you get a ding on your accreditation. And so here's what I said. Getting an accreditation deficiency for not enforcing a single silent minute is way over the top to me. Now, if a school is not allowing a coach to say a prayer before a game or teachers to keep Bibles on their desks, I think that's a problem. Those are personal issues, but not a state issue. Those situations aren't even addressed in this rule, most probably because they've been adjudicated frequently at numerous levels in the judiciary. And that's my point. So much of this has already been adjudicated. We have that right to be able to do that. This is just another, to me, sorry, and I hate to keep dinging, Ryan, but it is what I think. And that is, it's just another one of those things that he can go out and bang his fist on the table. And I'm glad that he's a Christian, and I'm glad that he's pushing Christian, I'm glad he stands up. Let's say this. I'm glad he stands up for his religion. I'm very grateful for that, and good for you, Ryan. But to just, bang on the table and say, we're going to do this. I think again, this is over the top. Let's drag it back just a little bit, and let's worry more about the fact that we have kids who can't read and they're graduating high school. To me, that makes a little bit more. I don't know. And Amber says, to prevent those from, and and I'm sure it probably could, but the problem is though, Amber, I mean, we've already adjudicated that at the Supreme Court level. We have that right. You just sue the school based on a violation of your constitutional rights. So that's why I think this seems more like a media bait issue than something else. I mean, stand up for the teachers' rights to have a Bible on their desk. Stand up for that. I think that's great, and I think superintendent, you should keep doing that. But this is silly, and let's not just fall into silliness because we already have plenty of that. So let's fall back on common sense and go, hey, you violated my constitutional rights. You're in trouble for that. I can I can worship as I want. And again, and you and I have talked about this before, and Michael, and I'm not sure if you feel the same way, but my thought is the more we push this religion stuff, the Christian religion stuff, the more that the Satanists are going to want to pull in, the more you're going to have,
well, I agree 100%.
Muslims pull. I mean,
how are you, at some point, how do you define religion? What if, hurting people or, physically doing things is your religion? Now you're protected because, you identify with whatever it is. I mean, at some point it's going to be,
good point.
Taken over legally because there's not a clear path to whatever it is. What if your religion is, spitting in someone's face? That could be your religion. I mean, who knows? I mean, your belief system. I mean, to boil it down, to bring all that, to try to cover all that and say that, you have to do this or that in school. I mean, to me, school is about one thing: academics.
Right.
If the church wants to grow their religion, that's their job. That's the Christian's job, to grow and outreach and touch people. It's not the school's job to facilitate that, in my opinion.
Well, and I feel the same way. So anyway, there you go. There are the rules. I hope that you're going to, I would hope maybe you would be interested in writing those. You've got all that information now on the website that you can go do that. I'll send them. I've had them, all of the rules at the bottom of the news section in our newsletter that goes out every Monday. So hopefully if you haven't seen it before and you're new, we got a whole bunch of new subscribers since our podcast on Wednesday. So thank you guys. Really appreciate that. And for those of you who are faithful viewers, thank you for paying attention to the fact that that's on there. So, and thank you for being faithful. So I don't know, do you have anything else today other than, I was going to throw up the slide. Remember our legislation we oppose? From the girls talked about yesterday.
Make sure everybody goes to that Constitutional Home Educators Alliance website. And I don't know their actual URL. It's not on the screen.
Oh no, I'm sorry, it isn't. But you can just, I found it, just all you have to do is, type
really
that in and you find it.
Read through all those, because that's the expansion of government right into the controlling of homeschool and private school and everything else. I mean, that's what's coming. But I agree, Jenny. Ultimately, for me, if you treat or push one certain religion because it is your own and it's your belief system in this country, now you've opened the door to everyone else. You can't say, Christian only can do this at school. Now you have to have the Muslim schools. You have to have the satanic school. I mean, you're just allowing that process to have teeth in order to push those agendas into the schools.
Yeah. And Julia gave it to us. Thank you, Jules. Appreciate you. So there it is, Constitutional Home Educators. And that was the one the slide that we just put up a second ago. So I'm going to close out with the ones that we talked with Wendy about yesterday. So here are those. I'm going to stick those in the newsletter. I'll probably just use these pictures because it's a lot easier than having to retype everything. But there you have them right there. And there are a couple other ones right here that we
Yeah.
need to make sure that we take care of there. So,
well, and as always, no one's coming to save us. We have to do this. No one else is reading this stuff, and it's going to go through unless we do something about it. When I say we, I don't mean like Jenny and I or Rope. I mean, we the people. If we the people don't actually do something, then this is how government grows. This is how they get all these stupid laws and rules and statutes, is, you know, just by us not paying attention.
Yeah, I mean, it's very true. So I'm trying to think, is there anything else that we've missed for this week?
I don't think so.
Oh, I've been asked to be on a panel on KOKH is having an education panel. I've been asked to be on it. And then you know what happened, Michael? I was just before we were ready to come on this morning, I had this thought. My nose is getting cut open today.
That's all right.
So I'm like, I don't know. I may have to email her back and go, do you want Frankenstein on there? Do you
they're tuning in for this up here and these two. That's what.
And maybe I can just do like this in case people are not going to want to see stitches on my nose. I don't know, but yeah, we weren't invited to do that. So whether if they want me to still attend, then with stitches on my nose, then I will. Is there anything else you can think of? I feel like we're missing something, but I don't know what it is.
No, just thank everybody that support us.
Thank you, everybody that supports us.
Yeah.
We really appreciate you. I'll throw up the video before we get off of here today. And again, if you have not, I can't do two things at one time. I was like, I can't talk and pull this up at the same time. If you haven't subscribed to our newsletter, please do it. It's really super easy to do. Go to rope2.org. As soon as you get onto the page, you'll have a pop-up box and it'll say, would you like to be on our email list? Click your name, put your address in there. And all we ask for, we don't data collect here. You know, we hate that here. So all we ask for is your name, your address, and your email. And that's all we need. And we'll send it out to you. So if you don't have anything else, then I think we'll sign off here for today. And I'm sorry that Sherry wasn't on.
Yeah.
I'll get with her after we're off. And if she's got something she wants us to add to an upcoming podcast, then we definitely will. And our podcast for next week didn't have that up and ready. Julianne Romanello will be with us on Wednesday. I'm going to check with her to make sure she's ready. Friday, Carmen will be on. I'm not sure what she's going to talk about this time. We might finish judges. I think she was talking about district judges.
Yeah.
So you want to stay tuned for that. So that's what we've got upcoming for next week. And we'll see you in the newsletter. And anything else, Michael?
That's it.
Okay. Thank you again for watching. We really, really appreciate you. And thank you for supporting us. And we'll see you next Wednesday.